In number 24, it says we're going to try to name 10 different rays, and actually there's more than that in this diagram over here, and then we'll talk about opposite rays. So when I'm looking at this diagram, you see a bunch of different points here, kind of the vertices of the triangle, so A and C and B, and then you've got these two outside points, D and E, that are going to help us out as well. What we're going to do is, first of all, let's just forget about this portion and just concentrate on that one line that has D and C and A. And we can come up with a bunch of different rays just based on that. Remember, a ray starts at a point and continues in one direction infinitely. So let's start at D and travel in this direction. And we have a ray here that goes from D through C and continues on in that direction. So if I'm naming rays here, I could call this one ray DC. And remember, we're starting with this point and going through C in that direction. Really, that's the same ray as ray DA, because it still travels in that direction. So I'm going to say ray DC or ray DA. Make sure you're writing these down with your arrowheads in the right spot. So those are our rays there. If we traveled along that same line but started on the other end, let's say we started up here at point A and traveled in this direction, we would have ray AC, or we could call it ray AD. So let's add those. We've got ray AC going from A through C, or from A through D, which is really the same ray since that line extending out from A travels in the same direction. Okay, so those are a couple right there. We could also, still looking at just that line, we could start at point C. Okay, so I'm going to start with a point C over here and travel up through A. Or a brand new ray, point C, traveling in the opposite direction, going through D. Now, there's a whole bunch of different rays that I just wrote down there. And we're going to see there's more if we look at the other lines. But just stopping right there, these two, I'm going to circle those. Those are opposite rays. If you want to label them separately over here, CA and CD are opposite rays. Because remember, an opposite ray just means they start at the same vertex and they travel in opposite directions along the same line. Okay, so those two are opposite rays. Now, let's take a look at this line that contains point A and B and E. And we can find some rays in there again. Let's start down at the bottom with E and travel upwards. If I do that, I would have from E going through B, so ray EB, or I could also call that ray EA. Okay, so from A to B in that direction, or E to A in that direction, kind of the same ray, just labeled differently with the end point. If I went in the opposite direction, I'd go from A to B, or A to E. So ray AB, which is really the same as ray AE. Or again, I could start with B and travel up away from B to A, so ray BA. Or B down to E, ray BE. And again, these two, since they have the same, vertex starting at B and are traveling along the same line but in opposite directions, are considered to be opposite rays. So we could put those in our list over here as well. What we didn't cover in here were the rays found along this line. I'm not going to cover that here, but you could essentially do the same thing and find a listing of even more rays there.